everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This is our NBA guy, Nick Wright. Only one way to start a show with your NBA guy, and that's Nick Wright. Hey, we're almost done with the NBA, so you're going to have to pick up something else, Nick. Be our baseball guy.
I don't know if we would need to worry about that. Let's just enjoy today. All I'm trying to do is get through today, just like you were just trying to get through that first sentence.
It went so
Hopefully
well.
I'll be more successful than you were, but go ahead.
It is Monday morning. I have not been taken seriously since Friday morning. That's why we started that way. Okay, that was unnecessary. Here are the questions we are discussing this morning.
Absolutely.
Where will Kawhi sign? We've got the latest. What's going on with the Celtics' future? Is it up in the air? We'll talk about that. But we have to start with one big trade. Say what you will about the Lakers, but despite all their dysfunction, they have managed to land two of the top talents in the game. LeBron last season and Anthony Davis in the last 48 hours. It is finally done. AD heads to L.A. in exchange. The Pelicans get Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, and a plethora of first-round draft picks, including their number 4 pick from this year. Nick, you said this was the only way the Lakers could salvage the mess they have accrued over the last couple of months. What is your reaction to this trade and how it all came out?
My reaction is the Lakers now have the best duo in the league. The Lakers acquired the player that of all the players in the league is the most perfect fit next to LeBron. The pick and roll offensively will be unstoppable, and where LeBron has deficiencies defensively, arguably the best defensive big man in basketball, certainly one of the top 3, will cover that up quite a bit. The Los Angeles Lakers, independent of LeBron for their future moving forward, just acquired a 26-year-old, heart of his prime superstar. They will have him for this year, and he will sign a 5-year max contract after this season. So they will have him for 6 seasons, 5 at a minimum. So if you're a Laker fan, or if you're someone that wants to see LeBron compete for championships, everything that happened this offseason, as ugly and as awkward and as mismanaged it all got wiped away with the trade for Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that's very good. The one thing that I'll point out with Anthony Davis, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but I'm just saying that Anthony Davis is such a good player that there is no situation that he does not fit in with. And if you look at all the free agents out there, there was not a player that he was not a good to perfect match with.
Totally
and you go to the top to bottom. You can say Kawhi, with Kawhi being the most desirable of all the free agents, KD, even with an Achilles, Kyrie, Kimba. Who else you want to look at? Clay, if he was if he was to leave Golden State, he is a perfect fit, but with LeBron James, because not only did LeBron get the type of help that he needs in this transition to Los Angeles, LeBron just became a better defender.
Yep.
LeBron can play up on guys on the perimeter now, because if you go to the bucket, you will have to face Anthony Davis. You can't put LeBron in a pick and roll, because LeBron can switch from a big to a small, to another small, to a wing player. He can do those types of things. And I think the most important thing, if the Lakers are going to be the Lakers, if they're going to keep Brandon and winning championships every decade, they needed a player like this. So for me, this was even more important than getting someone like LeBron James, because of the length of his contract, the style of basketball, and the way the Lakers, the Buss family, have done business. They had to get this Anthony Davis trade done.
They gave up a lot to get Anthony Davis, but it's clearly who they've been coveting for a long time. Did they give up too much, though? Are these two just enough without the pieces they gave up to make it work?
Well, listen, they now have some cap space. It's going to be either 24 or 28 or $32 million. That'll be ironed out in some details we'll get into later. You remember that Mercedes S1000 you had once upon a time?
Yes.
I didn't even know that car existed. Do you remember what you paid for it?
I think at the time...
You don't have to give a number. I'm just saying you're a little hazy on it. But,
yeah.
But you remember the car.
Yeah, about 130.
Okay, there you go. There you go. And that's a lot of money to pay for a car.
Yeah,
but
in the 90s, yeah, that was some gas.
But you remember the car.
He's the national treasure.
You remember the car.
Yes.
You remember having that you... Listen, at that time, whatever it sounds like, whatever they told
I probably remember more people when they looked at it and saw it was like, what is that?
What is that?
Yes.
However it made you feel driving it, whatever it was, whatever they told you, if you paid that for it, you were going to pay because you wanted it and you had the money to spend. If you're the Lakers, your only path to you went from a team that missed the playoffs to the favorites to win the championship. You just acquired a player who last year, in a down year, in a year with minutes restrictions, averaged 26 and 12 and a career-high 4 assists. The previous 2 seasons to last year, 75 games each year, averaging 28, 11, and was arguably the best defensive big man in the league.
I think it's very, very important,
like
Nick, that people like yourself and what you're saying. Let's get back to the numbers, because sometimes we miss these narratives when players, because of we're in the era where player empowerment, we forgot how good Kawhi was. Now, there was a little injury there, but we forget how good Anthony Davis was. What were those numbers again?
His last 2 years prior to last year averaged 75 games per season, 28 points, 11 rebounds, 4 combined steals and blocks. First team All-NBA both years, third in the MVP voting 2 years ago, Harden, LeBron, Anthony Davis. Last year, a down year with minutes restrictions, 26 points, career-high 12 rebounds, career-high 4 assists, career-high in PER. PER is a somewhat flawed stat, but it's a pretty damn good one. The greatest in NBA history PER, your guy Michael Jordan. Second greatest, LeBron James. Third greatest, Anthony Davis. You can't get guys like this. People talk all the time, and I know we'll get into the Celtics, about the Celtics, the steal they got from Brooklyn. You'll never get a better trade haul than what the Celtics got from Brooklyn. They didn't get no player like Anthony Davis. They got first round pick. Since LeBron came into the league, in my mind, there have been 4 guys that going into their draft were no doubt have to take them first overall. LeBron, Anthony Davis, Luka, who didn't go number 1, and Zion, who will. You now have 2 of them on the same team. This guy's been a superstar forever, has not played in big games early in his career, had injury difficulty. 26 years old, MVP candidate to pair with the best player alive.
Nick mentioned it, but kind of brushed over it. The Lakers are now, 3-1 favorites to win it all next year? Does that surprise you that it's been such a huge swing so quickly with a guy like Anthony Davis?
It doesn't surprise me based on what's happened the last week and a half in the NBA. If you look at the finals, if you look at the injuries, it has an impact on those odds coming off like that. Kevin Durant, kind of the kryptonite for LeBron James when he's with Golden State. It's on the record. I mean, he's going to leave Golden State, but he's injured now. So that affected, because New York would have been the Knicks if he added Kyrie or someone. Then you have to fight. Houston still has a very good team. But, no, you got it right. The only team that has 2 top 10 players healthy, the Lakers with AD and with LeBron, yes, they should be the favorite.
It was on the board 10 days ago that Kevin Durant was going to go to the Knicks and bring Anthony Davis with him.
Yeah.
I mean, and that LeBron,
Yes.
we were going to talk about LeBron and Tobias Harris. That we were going to be talking about, like.
Remember, I was upset and you were trying to push it on me.
LeBron and
like
Kemba.
a bad new drug. Yeah.
Remember?
Oh man, Kemba.
Yeah.
I still do like Kemba, but he's not Anthony Davis. It's not LeBron and Anthony
Thank
Davis.
you.
Time now for Put a Grid on It, sponsored by CarMax. Let's look at this from the Pelicans' perspective. Yeah, they lose AD, but they gain Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, and 3 first-round picks to presumably pair with Zion Williamson. Nick, start with you. Put a grade on this trade for the Pelicans.
Amazing how this works out. You hire a great general manager, and he makes the absolute most of a poor situation. I give them an A. You never win the trade when you're the one that gives up the superstar. But to get this much in return, 2 number 2 overall picks, the number 4 pick from this year's draft, and a couple future unprotected picks, he did as well as he possibly could have given the circumstance and wasn't worried about hurt feelings with the Lakers. I give David Griffin the Pelicans an A.
I'm going to go a little bit further and give him an A+. He was able to clear all this up before the next superstar, Zion, comes in there. I believe David Griffin would do a great job with those draft picks, and he resolved a very, very bad situation. And there wasn't a whole bunch of other people that could get anywhere close to this deal. The Knicks couldn't get close to this. Celtics couldn't get close to this. So this was the best deal to be had. Great for them.
And the timing of it, doing it before the draft so they can determine if they want to keep that pick, talk with the players, potentially move it. The timing of it was great for the Pelicans as well.
All right, let's get back to this Anthony Davis trade. He's heading to the Lakers in exchange for a king's ransom. There were other teams interested in the services of the 26-year-old six-time All-Star, but not willing to give up nearly as much as the Lakers did. According to reports, the Boston Celtics refused to include Jason Tatum in a deal for Davis, and that was the difference there. Nick, what do you make of how Boston handled this?
The way they've handled all their transactions over the last decade, if they're not clearly, without question, with no equivocation, winning the trade, they're not going to make the trade. And that's a hard way to do business. They have cashed in with their assets one time since they got them from the Nets back in 2013. The Kyrie Irving trade, and that was a no-brainer. You're trading damaged goods in Isaiah Thomas that you know better than anyone how damaged those goods are, and one pick, so along with Jay Crowder and other relatively meaningless pieces. That's the only time. They had an opportunity to trade for Paul George. Nope. Chris Mannix tells us they had an opportunity to trade Jaylen Brown for Kawhi Leonard. Nope. And now they have an opportunity to trade Jason Tatum for Anthony Davis. Nope. Okay, that's fine. Good luck. Because what the Celtics now have, and this is a good test case for how overvalued assets can be, and this is something you've been hammering, see, how many, these young players, he's going to be a top 10 player. Well, how many teams think their young guy is going to be a top 10 guy? If all of them were right, then we'd have 35 top 10 players in the league instead of the same top 10 over the last 5-6 years with one or two guys forcing their way in. Boston is now in no man's land, the place they never wanted to be. They'll be fine. They'll be good. They'll make the playoffs. They're not a championship contender. They're going to get nothing for Kyrie. They're not a free agent destination. And their most expensive guy on the roster, Gordon Hayward, we don't know if he will ever get back to All-Star form. That's the position they find themselves.
And they're in an Eastern Conference that right now they can't be excited. When you look at Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons there in Philadelphia, Giannis, and a lot of people will be wanting to play with Giannis. He'll be the MVP this year when they announce that later on this month. So where are the Celtics? A bunch of assets, a bunch of hope. And even after a couple years with Kyrie, what did they accomplish? To me, they did more damage than they did good, because now, how do they secure a big-time free agent? Kyrie was there. They had the opportunity to get him to stay. They were not able to win him over. Anthony Davis wasn't going to. He made it the reason why they couldn't trade not only the Tatum, he wasn't going to sign an extension there. So out of the big-time players, who's willing to go to Boston? That's one of the questions moving forward, too, that should be asked.
Were they more concerned that they could potentially get AD, but he wouldn't sign a long-term contract? Or do they have that much faith in Jason Tatum that he's going to turn into a guy who maybe is a top 10 player like Anthony Davis?
If Anthony Davis, if Rich Paul in that Sports Illustrated article, instead of saying you can trade for him Boston, but it'll be for 1 year, if his quote was trade for him Boston, he'll sign there, then they would have included Jason Tatum. But the Thunder got they were told Paul George a rental. They still went in for it. The Raptors were told Kawhi Leonard's a rental. They still went in for it, won a damn title, and at least it's plausible they could keep him. But this is the MO of how Danny Ainge has run the Celtics. Publicly tell the whole world we're interested in a player, have the trade negotiations fall apart, and then leak to friendly media how you were this close. It's what they did with Kevin Love in 2014.
Right. And as far as this trade goes, they're trying to act as if, well, we would have Tatum. Well, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know.
We don't know. And I was told this weekend that they potentially did include Tatum, but it was in a 1-for-1. No picks, no other players, no nothing else. And that deal is not going to get it done. But rinse, repeat. They almost traded for Kevin Love in 2014. They almost traded for Boogie Cousins in 2015 and 16. They almost traded for Blake Griffin in 2016. They almost traded for Paul George in 2017. And they almost traded for Jimmy Butler last year. And now Anthony Davis. We've been hearing about Anthony Davis since 3 years ago with the Celtics. They won't cash their chips in. And so they're not going to go broke, but they're also not going to hit the jackpot doing it this way.
All right, we did it lightly, but let's just look at this Celtics team now. If we assume that Kyrie is leaving, who do they have and how good can they really be?
I mean, they might be the fourth best team in the East. If you look at the Pacers were the fourth seed this year. Oladipo was out. What if they get D'Angelo Russell, put that backcourt, him and bring Oladipo back? There are problems. They're not talented enough. And those young players, how good are they going to be? Is Jaylen Brown going to be an all-star? I don't know about that. Tatum, I do believe at some point he'll be an all-star, but he's a few seasons away from being an all-star. So to me, they're in the middle of the pack right now. Even with all the assets they have, Gordon Hayward, you can't depend on him now.
And they don't know what's going to happen with Al Horford. Al Horford, who's been their most consistent player for 3 years, can opt out of his contract. That would give him cap space. But free agents don't sign in Boston. Gordon Hayward did in a very unique circumstance. His college coach was the head coach there. Terry Rozier is not happy. Terry Rozier, now maybe with Kyrie leaving, he'll want to stay, but he's a free agent. He's a restricted free agent, but he potentially can walk. We know Philly's in a better position. We know Milwaukee's in a better position.
Maybe not Toronto.
Toronto, if Kawhi...
Toronto's in a better situation because we got another 25 years? I mean, they won a championship that's bigger than the Raptors. It's for a whole country, and they made the move to get it done.
And by the way, Toronto also next year will have the player that I believe in the most of the young guys, Pascal Siakam. And so even if Kawhi leaves, Toronto's in a similar position Boston is. They were great young coach. This guy has actually proven it on a higher level than my guy Brad Stevens has. Then there's Indiana. Or Orlando, which was 20-8, the best record in the East, the final third of the season. They're coming. Like Boston, who's the best? The best player on Boston next year is what player in the league? The 38th best player in the league? The 43rd best player in the league? It's a tough putt for a team that's been selling us for years. We're this close.
And look at all the optics. There's more enthusiasm to people to potentially join the Knicks with Kevin Durant, because let's not forget, Kevin Durant's going to be in the East. And let's not forget about Brooklyn, who had a good season last year. And guys have a great deal of interest in joining the Nets. At LA County, rough.
Start your morning sponsored by Gillette
bail
Clear
you out,
Gel.
bro.
The U.S. women continue to handle business in the World Cup. They defeated Chile 3-0 to secure a place in the knockout round. Nick, what'd you make of the win?
This was great, and as we've discussed, really could have been 6 or 7-0 if not for some great goaltending, particularly in the second half by Chile's keeper. Julie Ertz with a goal, Carly Lloyd with a couple of goals. Great win. A more typical dominating soccer score win, 3-0 instead of 13-0. And now this game for Sweden, really just for bragging rights, they've already advanced.
I love the fact that we've already adjusted our lineup. You think after 13-0 they wouldn't make any adjustments? No. Several lineup changes, getting ready for that knockout round. Man, our girls are really, really talented. It's so exciting to see the elite play at an elite level.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the U.S. Open now.
Is that like being big and tall?
Yep, exactly right.
Dang it.
Gary Woodland was able to hold off Brooks Koepka to win his first major. See, how exciting was this finish?
It's so exciting. I mean, there are so many good golfers in golf right now. Gary Woodland, he's a guy who couldn't get over the top. Very, very good athlete. If you look at the athletes, Koepka, Dustin Johnson, all these guys coming after Tiger Woods, college basketball player. He's come up short, but he's got all the tools. Drives it straight, hit all different types of shots, left to right, right to left, made putts, made chips. He earned it at Pebble Beach.
And this is why it's so hard to win majors right now, because Gary Woodland's been a really good player for a long time. He went to college out around where I'm from. He went to the University of Kansas. And he just hadn't been able to break through, but he was dominating in this tournament. With that said, Brooks Koepka, who was going for a nearly unprecedented 3 straight, I thought he was going to catch him. And when he was on 18 with the putt for birdie to make it a 1-stroke lead for Woodland going into 18, I was shocked he didn't make it. Koepka is going to have to settle for second. So in the last 9 majors Koepka's played, 4 firsts, 2 seconds. But congrats to Gary Woodland.
You were on that Koepka thing from the beginning. The only thing that had you a little bit fuzzy was Tiger Woods. But his new favorite, Koepka, man.
Yeah,
Great pick.
I thought
Great pick,
it'd be Koepka and Tiger down the stretch. Instead it was Koepka and Woodland. Not quite the juice I had hoped for.
A baby Tiger.
Back to the NBA now. AD is heading to the Lakers. According to reports, the Celtics wanted to get him but refused to include Jason Tatum in the deal, and that was the difference there. Nick, what's the future looking like for Boston after not getting Anthony Davis?
Very similar to what they've looked like ever since the big 3 in Boston broke down, LeBron ended them, and they left. They'll be good. They won't be good enough. They'll make the playoffs, be happy to win a playoff series, and that's the ceiling for them. And by the way, no change on the horizon coming. And so that's where Boston is, and it should be a bit of a case study, if not a cautionary tale for other teams overvaluing their own assets rather than trying to go get a difference-making player.
All right, it's obvious they're not as good as the top teams in the East now, that being Milwaukee and also Philadelphia. But right now, are they better than the Pacers? After free agency, they get D'Angelo Russell. Are they better than Orlando? Best record after the All-Star break. Are they better than those teams? When you get put in that type of question, let you know that they should have traded. They have to do something.
And you're high on Brooklyn as well, and we'll see what they do.
All right, finally, AD got his wish. He'll be joining LeBron on the Lakers. The price, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, and 3 future first-round picks, including that number 4 overall this year. Nick, did the Lakers overpay for AD?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, go ahead.
But so what? Like, what do you know? If you got a Picasso, you got something, the Mona Lisa, these things are rare. Man, Anthony Davis is a great basketball player. And if you look at where they are now, if the Lakers, let's go back to last year and say LeBron's not a free agent. The Lakers are trying to change their franchise. Do they make this same trade? LeBron's not there? Absolutely. And now you have LeBron James, and now all of a sudden you are a legitimate title contender compared to some paper champion. Oh, well, how's this guy do? Well, how's this guy going to do? Anthony Davis needs to be paired with another superstar and one that has playoff experience. Anthony Davis has everything but playoff experience. And if you look at the Lakers, how they built their franchise and their branding, they needed a young superstar next to the king as they transition to the next decade. And so for me, you have to be able to make this trade. He's one of the bright young players. These players don't come available too often. How much would you trade for a top 5 player in the league?
Well, that's the thing. And so that's why my instant reaction was no. They paid a premium. They didn't get a bargain. This wasn't, you didn't get him for 30 cents on the dollar or 50 cents on the dollar the way the Raptors got Kawhi from the way the Raptors got Kawhi from San Antonio. But they didn't overpay because you can't overpay. What did Steve Ballmer say when he bought the LA Clippers? There's only 30 of these, only in the world, only one was available. There's only 7 guys in the league, 7, that can be the best guy on a championship team, that can be a league MVP. The Lakers now have 2 of them. So is that what, will Brandon Ingram or Lonzo Ball, either one ever make an all-star team? Maybe. Will Josh Hart ever be a starter on a quality team? Maybe. The picks they gave up, we know the number 4 pick. We know that's valuable, right? And then they gave up the 2021 pick and a 2024 pick with 1 pick swap. Here's what the Lakers kept, because here's what I find a little odd. There are certain people that were very boisterous on this point. Man, the Lakers, the Knicks can trump their offer. The Celtics can trump their offer. They don't have that great assets. Their young players aren't that good. And those same people, their response on Twitter this weekend was, my God, the Lakers got hosed. It's almost as if they had an agenda on this. Here's what they kept, the Lakers. Their best of their young players.
Yeah.
Maybe not the one with the most potential, but the one that's the most productive up to this point.
And the best fit for the other 2 players.
Absolutely. They also have first-round picks in 20, 22, and 23. Though it's a swap in 23. The way this goes sideways is maybe in 2025, if Anthony Davis does not re-sign with the Lakers a second time, and if LeBron's retired, and they haven't built the team right, then that 2025 pick might be one they're like, we wish we could have that back. Won't matter if they're hanging banners. And so just real quick, the comparison people are going to make, is the Nets-Celtics trade, which was 3 first and these pick swaps. The Nets traded for Kevin Garnett, who was 37 years old. He averaged 6.5 points his first year in Brooklyn. He played 96 total games there. They traded for Paul Pierce, who was 36 years old. He played 75 games in Brooklyn. The reason that trade went terribly was because the great players you thought you were getting were old and not great anymore. Anthony Davis is 26 years old and guaranteed to be great. How good are those draft picks going to be when Anthony Davis is on your team and LeBron's on your team? Not very good.
But also the rumor was the Lakers wanted to hold on to Kyle Kuzma, and we all thought, well, if the Pelicans want Kyle Kuzma, give him Kyle Kuzma if you want AD. They keep Kyle Kuzma, which you say fits in great with these 2 superstars they have now, and you're okay with who they gave away?
I mean, I love Kuz because Kuz is a better shooter. I think that he can be a little bit of a liability. I believe he'll improve as a perimeter defender, especially now that they have Anthony Davis. But his ability to be able to shoot the basketball and be able to score at a higher level, and he's a bigger guy to go with LeBron and AD. I think he's a perfect fit.
And there are two points on Kuz quick. One is his rookie year shot 37% from three. Last year, he just all of a sudden fell off the map on open spot-up threes. The Lakers I believe that was an aberration. Those were shots he hit in college, shots he hit his first season. The other reason to keep Kuzma is while Ingram and Ball are cheap, they are still number 2 picks of the draft, making $8-9 million. Kuzma makes like $2 million. So his contract is also incredibly valuable. So they kept their best player. They have a first-round pick 3 of the next 4 years.
Right.
And they got Anthony Davis. The idea that that's overpaying, I can't even believe people think it.
All right, let's talk about the other big story in the NBA now, the decision Kawhi Leonard has in front of him. TMZ Sports spotted the newly crowned Toronto Raptors celebrating their title in Las Vegas. And as soon as the euphoria settles, that Canadian passion will turn towards Kawhi and his free agent plans, if it hasn't already. According to Fred VanVleet, the team has done their part to recruit him.
He came here and did what he was supposed to do. So he brought this city a championship, and I think he's earned his freedom in his career to do what he wants to do, and we'll all respect and admire him. And if he's on another team, then we'll just have to kick his ass next year. But hopefully he'll be back.
Fred, keeping it honest and real. See, where do you think Kawhi Leonard ends up next season?
Well, Fred is right. And not only the country of Canada, but the Toronto Raptors, that they have done everything the right way. Kawhi and his team, they couldn't be happier. Also with the championship, that was just kind of the cherry on the top. When they got past Philadelphia, you could say that they felt really, really good about what they had accomplished. Coming there, load management, and realizing that where Kawhi was as a basketball player, they were very, very confident that he had returned to form. But as far as free agency goes, I would say, and because of the moments, what they've had the last month and what the chemistry that he's developed with that team, you have to say Toronto that they are the favorite. They can also pay him the most. Great experience for him there. The doctors that he had working with him, their collaboration with the doctors for the Raptors, the load management situation where he missed 22 games during the regular season, how it played off. He played through all the pain in the playoffs, having one of the greatest playoff runs that we had ever seen. But it's going to go like this. Toronto, they are the favorite because of what happened. But Kawhi sent a message to everyone else. I don't have interest in just joining a super team or something like that. Just give me some ball players, and I believe that we can take on the NBA. This didn't change because he won. This is exactly what I was saying last year when people were talking about trading to Kawhi. When they're talking about, oh, is it the Clippers or is it the Lakers? Is it LeBron? All this. No, he's not into that. But the Raptors should be the favorite, and then it's going to go like this in no order. Both teams in New York, that being the Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets, they will both get a sit-down interview with Kawhi. Also, the Los Angeles Lakers will be a part of the discussions. Yes, he will sit down with them and the Clippers. So Clippers, Lakers, Nets, Knicks, and the Raptors, those are the 5 teams that will be involved in the Kawhi Leonard sweepstakes.
So there's 5 teams that have a legitimate chance. I think people are going to be surprised to see those 2 New York teams on that list, because what we had heard was it's Los Angeles, wants to be in Los Angeles, either team in Los Angeles. You're telling us that both New York teams, both LA teams, and of course Toronto. And here's to me, the most noteworthy part of it. Because of what he just proved, if the follow-up is where's he the best fit, it's a great fit everywhere. This is what Kawhi Leonard has proven. Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, the Kevin Durant we know, those are 3 guys in this league, maybe the top 3 guys in this league, that we know unequivocally. Put them in any situation, their team will be a playoff team. Put the right talent around them, their team will be a championship contender. Like, that is the level of player he is, which is why he could look at the Knicks, who right now, they had the worst record in basketball last season. They were clearly clearing the decks for a player like Kawhi Leonard. The Nets, who were an up-and-coming team, but not a championship-level team, similar with the Clippers. And then there's the Lakers. And the Lakers one is interesting. It would take a lot of salary cap machinations. They would have to go back to the table with New Orleans, try to convince them to delay the trade. But let's just say the Lakers could clear up the money. While Kawhi doesn't need a super team, the idea of playing with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, two guys he has tremendous respect for, I would imagine he would at least have to consider being able to do that in the part of the country he's from. And then Toronto, where they just won a title, the one thing that I'm curious about is there's been a lot of speculation about will Kawhi sign a short-term deal in Toronto. Tell me if you disagree. That one would surprise me only because Kawhi turned down a ton of money to stay in San Antonio. He would then be turning down a ton of money to sign the full max free agency. And when you are a player who has dealt with some lingering injuries, the idea of, and you just see KD tears Achilles, Klay Thompson tears ACL, to leave $100+ million on the table to sign a short-term deal, that would surprise me. I don't know if you feel differently. I would imagine wherever Kawhi signs, he's going to sign the full either 4 or 5 year max.
I mean, they literally have been taking it game by game. I mean, what's Kawhi's availability from a health standpoint? Game number 1. What does he feel like game number 2? Game number 3 to game number 6, you could see in the interviews, that's the first time that he was able to relax. So now they will start the process. Not going to be any tampering stuff. They're going to start the process. He's going to have a great time at the parade today. I'm sure he's going to thank the Toronto Raptors. I'm sure he's going to thank the country of Canada. But it's going to be Kawhi Leonard, business as usual, and those will be the 5 teams that will be involved.
I think with Kawhi, it's interesting because with KD, we talk so much about maybe he wants to go out and see if he can win on his own. But you don't get the sense from Kawhi that he either needs to play with someone else or needs to not play with someone else. So those 4 teams offer 4 different scenarios of where he'd be. At the Clippers, he'd be the guy. You know, if KD comes to the Knicks, he'd be with KD. If he goes to the Lakers, he joins them. So I think it's 5 different situations where you can either be with a superstar or not, but he doesn't seem like that's something that's important to him.
Well, and this is the freedom that this championship gives him. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, he were to pick the Lakers and they were able to clear the decks for it. No, he has what KD didn't have when he went to the Warriors.
Did it on his own.
If KD had already won a title
Dwayne
in
Wade.
OKC, Dwayne Wade's a better example because he had it.
Yeah.
Nobody questions D. Wade's second 2 titles because he had already done it.
Right.
So now if Kawhi had gotten knocked out in the second round, if he had missed that shot, they lose in overtime, and then he joins the Lakers, then people would say, okay, well, how? But he answered all those questions.
You're right.
That's what a championship gives you. Just like you say, the Hall of Fame. What does the Hall of Fame do for me? It answers all the questions. How good was Chris Carter? Well, I'm a Hall of Famer. So that I don't have to have the debate about who's better, this, that, or the third. For Kawhi Leonard, the championship answers all the questions. No one can say he's ring chasing when he's the defending finals MVP.
Yeah, but also I think that along the way, some of the things with Kawhi have been misunderstood. And the concept, he wouldn't want to play with great basketball players, it's just not his number 1 priority. He wants to play the game the right way. He wants to continue growing his game. He thinks that he can be a lot better over the next 3 to 5 years. And he's trying to set himself up for the rest of his life, for his family, and this decision right here is going to do that. What they're talking about is this is a business decision. If there's another great player in the building, I'm not against that. But this is about Kawhi and what's best for his family. What's best for KD is best for KD. But Kawhi doesn't want to get involved in, I talked a guy into coming here, and then now all of a sudden his situation's not as good, and they're looking at Kawhi as if, hey, man, look, my career is off track, and I listen to you. No, Kawhi's going to make the best decision for him, but he's not shying away from great basketball players.
Welcome back to the show. FS1 NBA analyst Sarah Kustok joins us. Good morning,
guys. Great to see you.
Sarah, how
Good to
are
see
you?
you, Nick, Jenna.
Good
Beautiful
to
blue.
have you here.
Welcome
Cece,
back.
thank you, sir.
Sarah, say what you will about the Lakers, but despite all their dysfunction, they have managed to land 2 of the top talents in the game. LeBron last season and Anthony Davis in the last 48 hours. It is finally done. AD heads to L.A., and in exchange, the Pelicans get Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, and a plethora of first-round draft picks, including that number 4 this year. All right, Sarah, what'd you make of the deal?
I like it. When it first broke, it was something that we had been anticipating, waiting on, what it was going to look like, how it was going to happen.
But we're still not sure. Because don't leave it up to the Lakers to get everything done.
Right.
Well, let's hope so. If they don't get it done at this point, I would be concerned. But the way it's laid out and when, in fact, it can go through, I think it's tremendous for both sides. What did the Lakers want? They wanted Anthony Davis. They needed another superstar next to LeBron James, and they got that. They apparently really wanted to keep Kyle Kuzma. So for that fact, you think that was probably the one straw that they were able to keep. And then David Griffin and the New Orleans Pelicans have bucket loads of assets and players now. And they did, I think, as good as they could have done in what they would get back. And, of course, they didn't want to give up Anthony Davis. But both teams, you saw, to me, the entire time we were watching this, it was always a question of who really has the leverage. Because you know Anthony Davis clearly does not want to be in New Orleans. You know he's going to leave. You know where he wants to go. So even though David Griffin wanted to put out, we're going to negotiate with other teams, we're talking and listening to calls, Rich Paul and Anthony Davis made it clear where he ultimately wanted to be. So are you willing to give up so much and mortgage your future for a potential one-year deal with Anthony Davis? The Lakers were the one team that knew that he would stay. So therefore, with the Lakers side of things, they had to give all of that up, but ultimately they got what they wanted in the end.
When the Lakers went into this either unintentional or intentional tanking mode from the previous few seasons, if you'd have told them on the other side of it, you're getting Anthony Davis. That's the end result. 5 years of just bottoming out. What you're going to walk away with is Anthony Davis. They said, worth it. Totally worth it. And after 5 years of tanking, unintentionally in the beginning, pseudo-intentionally as of late, and then last year, obviously, they didn't mean to tank at all, they got Anthony Davis. We know the names. There's 7 guys in the league that individually are difference makers. LeBron, KD, Harden, Steph, Giannis, Anthony Davis, Kawhi. No particular order, just how they came to me. Those are the 7 guys. There's a whole nother list of all-stars, fringe superstars, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, maybe, or at least he was. But those 7 guys are the 7 invaluable assets in basketball. They do not become available via trade. They become available via free agency. 2 of them in the last year have now come available via trade. One because disgruntled with the team because of medical issues. The other disgruntled with the team due to incompetence. And so for the Lakers to be able to get one of those and sign the other one through free agency the year before, it's an A+. You can now, what is a championship worth? It's the question. Because you went from, could the Lakers make the Western Conference Finals based on the power of LeBron James in year what, C?
17.
Year 17. 2, how big a favorite should the Lakers be to win the NBA Finals? That's what this trade does for you.
It's a great deal for the Lakers, and I'm so glad they kept Kuzma. So we have to get congratulations to Rob Pelinka, because you talk about the dysfunction. Man, most of my friends, my family, man, we were raised in dysfunction, and we learned how to function at a high level in dysfunction. But this changes the franchise. This gives Rob Pelinka an opportunity to be able to resurrect whatever we've thought about him and Magic Johnson, Jenny Buss, and everything else that was going on, the Ramby family and everything. This is the most solid move that they've made in the last couple years, given what we've seen the last 2 months coming out of Los Angeles. It's a deal that they had to make, and you can't pay too much for something that's we just had the golf tournament on Fox at Pebble Beach. Right. How much would you pay for Pebble Beach? It's the only strip of land in the world just like that. Well, let me tell you something. The unibrow. We've seen a lot of unibrows, but not basketball playing unibrows. All right? So you have to be able to pay that price to get a player like AD.
And a lot of people are comparing this to the Boston Celtics Brooklyn Nets trade back in 2013, which I lived through. And I will say, to me, aside from the picks, aside from the first-round picks that were traded, it's entirely different because you were looking at a Kevin Garnett and a Paul Pierce that were towards the end of their careers. You are getting Anthony Davis.
No, combined age, they was old as the Brooklyn Bridge.
Combined age.
I'm trying to be gentle.
Without renovation and everything.
They were combined 73 years old.
Yeah.
They were 37 and 36 years old. They were both a decade
Anthony Davis
older
so you're getting
than
a
Anthony Davis.
26-year-old Anthony Davis. And I think for all of us, and it's similar to me in a little ways of the Kawhi situation, he played 50-some-odd games last year. It wasn't because of health reasons. It wasn't because of injury. It was because of the circumstance. And I think oftentimes we're forgetting just how unbelievable of a player, how he entirely can change the complexion of a franchise and then add him with quite possibly the best player in the game.
So that's just it. It's not just that you're getting the Anthony Davis. You're getting the Anthony Davis who happens to pair up with LeBron extremely well. Talk about how those two fit and how their game works.
I believe Anthony Davis is the future of the NBA. If you could draw up a basketball player for me, how tall would he be? What would his skill level be? Anthony Davis it wouldn't be no small guy. It wouldn't be no wing player. No, give me a big, a guy that's got a post game, a guy that's got an intermediate game, and is not reluctant to shoot. People don't realize Anthony Davis he had a growth spurt. He was a point guard. He learned how to handle the ball. That's how he can shoot the ball so good, shoots from the free throw line well. To me, this is the future NBA player. He's going to be 6'8" to 6'10" and going to be deadly from the three-point line and be able to do other things with this game. And I'm not even going to mention that he's one of the best defenders that we have in the league. This is the future of the NBA.
And one other thing you missed, he runs the floor. I mean, you want to talk about a transition game and the way in which he can also be versatile. You could play him at the 5. He likes to play the 4. LeBron, you can mix him. I mean, there's a lot of different ways in which you could put together a lineup. You need to find some shooters.
Yep.
But he brings everything to the table.
His one weakness is three-point shooting. He's 33% last year, but he was 38% on spot-up threes. He'll get a lot of spot-up threes on the pick and pop. Last year, his down year, 26, 12, and 4 with a PER of 30. The previous year, his last full season, he was third in the MVP voting. His last 2 seasons combined, he was 28 points per game, 11 rebounds, and almost won Defensive Player of the Year. He is every year he's healthy. He's a top 5 MVP candidate. His last healthy year, he lost Boogie Cousins and went out and swept the Blazers in the first round in a series. He dropped 47 points in the closeout game. He's a great player. That the Lakers would have done this deal and been smart if LeBron wasn't there. With LeBron in year 17, it's a no-doubter, and that's why they're the championship favorite.
The 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup continues today on Fox and FS1. Full coverage day beginning at 11 a.m. Eastern as China takes on Spain on FS1, while South Africa battles Germany on Fox. Catch it all on Fox, FS1, or stream it live on the Fox Sports app. Back to the Anthony Davis trade now. So he's heading to the Lakers in exchange for basically a king's ransom. There were other teams interested in the services of the 26-year-old six-time All-Star, but not willing to give up nearly as much as the Lakers did. According to reports, the Celtics refused to include Jason Tatum in a deal for Davis, and that was the difference. Sarah, what do you make of how Boston handled this?
Jenna, I'm not sure where Boston goes from here. However, and I'm not sure these two will agree with me, I think if you look at this trade in a vacuum, that Danny Ainge did the right thing. I don't think, given what Anthony Davis said, where he wanted to be for a one-year rental with Kyrie presumably leaving, that you give up everything for a player like Anthony Davis to come and play for 1 year, particularly if he did not want to be there. Now, I think we look back at Paul George and potentially an opportunity missed by Danny Ainge and the Celtics there. You look at Kawhi Leonard, and with all of that combined, it seems like, gosh, once again, you have all of these assets and all of these opportunities, and you don't get the job done of a player that you have been coveting for a very long time. However, I don't think, given what the Lakers gave up, the deal that David Griffin got, I don't think that was a situation that Danny Ainge should have necessarily tried to top that. And I am not even certain. The thing is, Jason Tatum is a piece here that we all continue to talk about, not putting him in it. I'm not certain that even adding Jason Tatum in would have been a better deal than what the Lakers had on the table.
So I actually agree with you. And this is the case with the Danny Ainge almost moves. In a vacuum, all of them are justifiable to not make them. In a vacuum, are we going to include Jaylen Brown for Kawhi Leonard? Man, Jaylen Brown showed us a little bit his first couple years. Could he be the next Kawhi Leonard? We don't know about Kawhi's health. He doesn't want to be here. No, we made the conference finals last year. Let's not do that, and we have Kyrie coming back. And do we want to have a guy that can walk out? Okay, you should have done it. Paul George, well, he wants to be in L.A. We're not going to be able to convince him. Let's not do that. We like our assets. And then Paul George stays in Oklahoma City. Anthony Davis, his agent has publicly said, never Boston. We'll go there, fulfill the contract obligations, and leave. Jason Tatum has shown upside, so let's not do that. At some point, though, you got to do something. And that's the problem with having to win every deal. The problem with not wanting there to be, you know what, this one's 50-50. It might blow up in our face, but we're going to roll the dice and go for it, is if you never roll the dice, you can never win the money. Now, you'll never crap out. You'll never go broke. You can just sit there and you can paddle along and stay at, it's not average, but stay in that little second to third tier. Never drop down to the worst tier, never get up to the top tier. That's where Boston is. And now that we are fully removed from the Nets trade, all those assets, all those chips have been cashed in. Okay, so what do they have? They have Tatum. They have Brown. They've got 3 first-round picks this year. None of them that valuable. 14, 20, and 22. One great asset moving forward. The Memphis pick either next year, if it's not in the top 6, if it is, and then, or the year after that, unprotected. That's it. How many teams across the league have guys they know are better than the Celtics' best guy? I know the Sixers do. I know Milwaukee does. We know a handful of teams out west. After free agency, the Nets might, the Knicks might.
Yeah.
That's where you find yourselves now, Boston. If you'll never take a risk, you can never win big. They thought they had it. They thought that Nets trade was going to be their cure-all, and it hasn't been. It's been their cure-all to getting good, but never getting great, and this ensures that that will remain the same.
I'm about taking a risk, but it wouldn't have been this risk. I wouldn't have traded for Anthony Davis if I was them. I mean, Rich Paul and them made it clear. And what's happened to Boston over the last couple years, one they could control, the other one they couldn't control. Gordon Hayward, his injury, they couldn't control that. If Gordon Hayward was healthy, I do believe that Kyrie Irving's 2 years there do go a little bit different. And then they're in a position, because the Kyrie experiment, it failed, which in turn shut out everything with getting Anthony Davis. Because Anthony Davis and Kyrie have had discussions about playing together, but none of them were about playing for the Celtics. And that's an indictment when you have one of your players saying, I'm trying to get with you somewhere else, that being either with the Lakers, that being in Brooklyn, in New York, but not coming to the place that I have been, because I got intel and you're better off, your career is better off not coming here. So for me, Danny Ainge, he wasn't going to win this. There was no comparison. Even if you put Tatum in the deal, they did not have what the Lakers had. And ultimately, in this player movement, player empowerment, if a guy says he don't want to be somewhere, you better be careful in trading for him. I know people say, oh, Paul George worked out. That was an individual situation. We'll see at the beginning of July if the Kawhi thing worked out for them long term, but they got a championship out of it. So I would say one team won. Right now we're waiting to see with Kawhi, but that renting a player for a year is still a big, big risk. And I'm with Danny Ainge as far as I wouldn't have taken that risk in this deal.
But there's two other just small points. One is it's not only not trading for Paul George or almost doing it, or almost trading for Jimmy Butler, or almost trading for Boogie Cousins. It's what did we see? We saw the Sixers last year during buyout season go out, upgrade their team. We saw Milwaukee upgrade their team during the year. We saw the champs, Toronto, go get Marc Gasol. We see teams during the year say, you know what? We are going to trade away either young, talented players. By the way, some of those young, talented players become less valuable once they play more and people see what they actually are. And then there's one team that stands pat. But the other element is, and where it really all did go sideways, was with Kyrie. And this is why I was hammering this point all year of what a disaster this season could be for Boston. Because if the season ended in disappointment, it did. And it ended in Kyrie leaving, it will. Then you are out of the Anthony Davis game. Because if Kyrie is about to sign an extension, then you do trade Tatum for Anthony Davis.
Yes.
Then you do risk it. Because then you have two of the guys that really matter in this league.
We're saying the same things we're saying about the Lakers.
Exactly right.
So where is Boston left now? What's the next? Is there a big name that's going to come through Boston? When did Boston not become a big free agent destination?
I'm not sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I was talking to someone about this the other day. Al Horford, when he decided to go to Boston,
was the first guy to choose to go to Boston in 40 years.
Yeah, like they have not ever really been a free agent destination. They're a team in an organization that's always drafted well. They've made good so their players that they've acquired that have put them to the point of where they're at have not come through free agent decisions. And so that's where, I don't know. I mean, Al Horford has not opted into his player option, although the common thought is that he's going to renegotiate a new deal with Boston. But you're left with a lot of the pieces that we saw this past year. And so I'm not sure where
Danny Ainge needs about half the general managers to be like Kevin McHale and make that deal real sweet for him. like some sweet and low sweet for him. Like, let me help out my
Kevin
Celtics and my
Garnett, come
homeboy.
on. Exactly
Yes.
right. I mean, listen, where is Boston? The same place they've been since Bird's back went out, except for the Ray Allen Pierce KG mini window. Good, but not great. Very rarely tank, never compete for championships. And the one time they made a move that made them like that, the other GM on the other side just happened to be a guy who Danny Ainge used to pour champagne on after winning titles. I'm not saying those are correlated, but it's really interesting.
And they've got they can be good, and they've still got a great. But look at where other teams in the East are
right
and
now.
may
Right.
be going to. So that's more the factor.
All right. FS1 is your destination for the day's best sports shows. Tune in for the biggest personalities on the biggest stories. We get you started right here with First Things First. Catch it all Monday through Friday, only on FS1. More on Anthony Davis in a second, but first, gotta see this. The U.S. defeated Chile 3-0 yesterday, helped in part by Carly Lloyd, the first of her 2 goals on the day.
Oh, she was outstanding. We thought that she would be coming off the bench. Now as they transition into the knockout round, coach makes a decision. They had 7 lineup changes even after the 13-0 win.
And I think that's smart because I think they're just trying to try out as many lineups as they can before they get to the knockout stage. So when they have a tough match like against France, they know which one is their best lineup.
All right, here we go. Julie Ertz gets in on the action with a beautiful header.
Great. Look, watch this heater. Watch this ball rise off of her. Great header.
Why
Also,
is
we
she
got
so good at
NFL
football?
tight end Zach Ertz, her husband. He's at the game. Man,
With
great header
respect
here.
to Zach, she's the best athlete in the family.
Well, of course, with respect to Zach.
No,
Who else?
I'm not saying regardless of. I'm saying given respect
I
to
mean,
him.
bro, there's only 32 starting tight ends in the NFL.
There's only 11 starting players on the U.S. women's national team.
Yeah, but there's a
Eat
lot
that.
of other. Eat it. Okay. Someone told me to be
While
quiet.
the U.S. won, Chile's goalie, Christian Endler, didn't make it easy. Robbed Kristen Press with a beautiful save, one of many she had on the afternoon. She was great.
Oh, she's one of the best players in the tournament. Almost every team competing in this would take her as their goalie. And if she didn't play the way she did in the second half, this gets ugly.
What's it, 7-0?
At least.
8-0?
Because the momentum, yes.
She played outstanding. Similar to Tim Howard, our friend,
Yeah.
when we lost in our last World Cup appearance. He was outstanding, just couldn't do enough.
All right, let's get back to the Anthony Davis trade now. He's leaving New Orleans, heading to L.A., joining forces with LeBron and the Lakers. LeBron was a very happy man upon hearing the news, posting this photo to the gram. This is photoshopped. It's with the caption, AD on the way. Let's get it, bro. Just the beginning. Hashtag Lake Show. Nick, does this trade finally justify LeBron's move to the Lakers?
Yes, and it's almost as if LeBron had a feeling something like this was going to happen. I'm old enough to remember folks saying LeBron went to the Lakers because he didn't care about winning championships anymore. I'm old enough to remember folks saying LeBron went to the Lakers, it's going to be MJ's Wizards section of his career. I'm old enough to remember LeBron went to the Lakers to go film movies. Okay. Or he went to the Lakers not anticipating last year to go as poorly as it did, but anticipating the gravity of LeBron, a player that once upon a time people were saying, I think it's a negative. They should trade him. People don't want to come play with LeBron. The gravity of LeBron, plus the gravity of that organization, which despite the mayhem recently, is the most decorated organization in the history of the league, and the gravity of the city of Los Angeles, which for many people is the #1 draft pick of cities you could live in this great country of ours, that they would end up being okay. And I know Anthony Davis wasn't a free agent, but he made it very clear to the entire league, I want to be there, and chilled the market for everyone else. They aren't done. They might end up getting they certainly will get other players, whether they get another superstar or not, we'll see. The idea that LeBron was going to go to Los Angeles and just put up good numbers but not compete for championships, I never believed it. And so, yeah, does it justify it? Sure. But I think it was already justified. We were just impatient with the first year. And it would have been justified if this move got done a few months ago when Anthony Davis demanded the trade. And if that had happened, maybe Dell Demps, who wouldn't do that trade, would still have his job. But he didn't. He got fired. The Lakers went through their mayhem. And now they've got 2 of the 7 best players in the league.
Yeah, LeBron James had to have someone join him in Los Angeles. And given the way the dominoes might have fallen, after free agency, after Kevin Durant gets hurt, like, this was the best case scenario for LeBron outside of Kawhi Leonard just saying, I'm going to come to Los Angeles, no compensation, as a unrestricted free agent. But now, even if you look at it, AD obviously wants to play with LeBron. He's been saying that for almost a year. We reported Kawhi is going to interview the Lakers as one of the 5 teams he's going to sit down with. So Kawhi don't have an issue playing with them. Kyrie wants to potentially play with LeBron. They've kind of patched up that past, and he's talked about playing with AD. Jimmy Butler talked about going to Los Angeles.
Kimba would consider it.
Kimba, man, would love it. I mean, he wants to get paid.
Right.
And 2, but to be able to play with LeBron James and really get into a playoff race. So, yeah, a lot of the myths, but they had to add a superstar. And based on the way things have gone down, the guy that secured LeBron James was not an organization in Magic Johnson. It wasn't like we had a whole bunch of confidence in what was left. Rob Pelinka, Jenny Buss, they were going to be able to get this done. But, yes, they did get it done. And you got to be able to give credit to Rob Pelinka that now they can stabilize this franchise. Now the conversations won't be about their inability to do things the right way. Now it's about, well, what will the other players be? Will they add another superstar? Will they put this off 30 days so they can get the maximum dollars in the cap available, being $32 million? Those are the things you're talking about now. And did they pay a lot? Yeah, you have to pay a lot to get a player like that, but you're getting ready to maximize every year that you have with LeBron James because of the AD trade now.
What does that maximizing look like? What is the ceiling? Not just for next year.
A couple titles.
But over the course of whatever
title.
LeBron has left?
Well, she said the ceiling. The ceiling is a couple titles. I mean, right?
Anthony Davis been in 2 playoffs.
Yeah.
Let's get a title.
Between LeBron and Anthony Davis,
Nick is like, this
NBA
is Nick at the press conference. Remember Miami, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh? Oh, man, this easy.
Not 6, not 7, not 8. Yeah.
What about 1?
Yeah.
What about 1 parade? LeBron's in year 17.
Yep.
All right? Like, that dude is not going the opposite way. First time injured this season. 1 title would be spectacular. 2 titles would be unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
It would be unbelievable.
Right. And so, again, I'm not sitting here and predicting.
LeBron only got 1 in Cleveland.
And he didn't have a player, though, like Anthony Davis in Cleveland.
I
agree. But he was
understand
younger.
that.
I understand all of it. But the other reason that this would have been a great move for the Lakers no matter what. But given, and I feel terribly for the people that are Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson. That they're going to be, that KD is going to miss probably a year, that Klay could miss most of next year. So I almost hesitate to even bring this part of it up. But from a just on the court perspective, the fact that this has happened with the guy who was coming for LeBron's title as best player in the world, a guy a lot of people had already said is the best player in the world, Kevin Durant, he's going to be out of basketball next year. Klay Thompson, who was assuredly going to stay with Golden State, and I believe still is, isn't going to be playing alongside Steph for at least the next 6, 8, 9 months. All of a sudden, the NBA is the most wide open it's been.
Since Jordan's retirement.
Right. And 100%. And so if they had made this trade and KD and Klay were healthy and KD had re-signed in Golden State and Klay had re-signed in Golden State, then yes, this would be your minimum barrier to entry to be in the discussion. Mm-hmm. Could you, with a few more savvy moves and some good luck, overtake the Warriors?
But that's not the case now.
You get to be the favorites.
Yep.
My pal Daryl Morey has been at his computer with his spreadsheets, going to Spain and different parts of Europe for a decade, hoping, will there be a moment where the favorites to win the title? And I know it. There was one moment in time, about a quarter and a half into Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago. They were the mathematical favorite to win the title. And it went away like that. It's been working on it for 15 years.
Right.
The Lakers did it over a weekend with the Ramby in charge when they don't know what they're doing. And so, of course, it justifies it. You win man, the rings, the banners hang forever. And you go win a ring, none of this other stuff matters.
Time now for your World Cup Wake Up. The U.S. women continue to handle business in the World Cup. They defeated Chile 3-0 to secure a place in the knockout round. Carly Lloyd had 2 goals. She's now scored in 6 straight World Cup matches.
That's crazy.
Man.
See, what'd you make of the win?
Oh, man, I thought it was great. Their coach made some adjustments, 7 lineup changes after a 13-0 win.
Why do you do that?
Well, they're getting ready for the knockout round and the rounds where they'll be playing for all the marbles. Gave some younger players some experience first couple rounds, but we got to go to the players that have been proven, and we have so many different styles for which we can play at. Great to see.
Carly Lloyd scoring a goal in 6 straight World Cup matches is bananas. That is the stuff truly of legends. That's something Messi, Ronaldo never have done. On the men's side of things, and so that's great. And the U.S. getting to now already in the knockout stage. That you obviously go have a good result against Sweden. You lock up winning the group. And the reason I mentioned the thing about France is they should be playing France in the round of 16, which would be a tough matchup between the 2 favorites in the tournament, but they might not be if France doesn't finish first in their group. So something to watch with France taking on Nigeria today at 2 o'clock on Fox.
Yep. All right, good stuff. Time now for stories to start your morning, sponsored by Gillette Clear Gel. Gary Woodland was able to hold off Brooks Koepka to win his first major at the U.S. Open. That was this weekend. See, how exciting was this finish?
Oh, so exciting. Gary Woodland played great over the weekend, came in as the 54-hole leader, and kept that lead. Golf course was playing as hard as it has all week, but when he needed to hit a shot, that being a drive, chip, putt, man, he made the shot. And with all the former major champions coming behind him, guys who had won, man, he was able to maintain his composure because he's come up short a bunch of other times. But another good young golfer who's a very good athlete, former college basketball player, Nick.
See, what was my 1-2 pick for this tournament? First place was
T. Woods.
Second place was
Koepka.
See, that's what you thought I said. I didn't say
Woods
Koepka. I said Woodland Koepka. So my exacta hit exactly as I said it would. In all seriousness, Koepka to me could have been the story in coming in second. Now, last 9 majors he's played in, 4 victories, 2 second-place finishes. He was right there. He had a putt for birdie on 18 to cut it to 1, put some pressure on Woodland late, just barely missed it. But congrats to Gary Woodland, which really shows the depth of the fields in professional golf right now. Gary Woodland's been in the mix for years, never broke through in a major, and now has one.
Your picks are getting better, man, since you changed your hairstyle.
Oh, okay.
Back to
that
the
other
NBA
guy
now.
was Nick wrong. I like this guy.
After the Anthony Davis trade finalized, the Lakers are now favorites to win next year's NBA title at 3-1 odds. Nick, should they be?
Of course. They've got the best player in the league, and they're the only team with 2 of the top 7 guys. And are they the only team right now with 2 top 10 healthy guys? Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, they should be the favorites. We'll see what they do with their remaining cap space, but LeBron plus Anthony Davis, especially given what's happened to the Warriors and everything else.
There you go.
They got to be the favorite.
They got to be the favorite. Look at the Warriors. KD leaving. KD injured. Clay being injured. Kyrie, where is he going to go? He's not going to go anywhere to have a better team than the Lakers. He might end up joining the Lakers. Kawhi, don't know what he's going to do. The number of events had led to the Lakers right now. Who would you take? Let's 2-on-2 basketball. Who would you take?
Nobody.
AD and LeBron.
All right, let's move on to the Pelicans side of this trade. They acquired Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and Josh Hart. Should be a good group to pair with presumptive number 1 overall pick Zion Williamson. Nick, how excited are you about the Lonzo-Zion combination?
Lonzo's going to fit in seamlessly in New Orleans. First of all, he and Drew Holiday might instantly make the best defensive backcourt we have in the league. Drew Holiday's an all-NBA level defender. Lonzo's an excellent defender. But getting out in the open court, Lonzo throwing alley-oops to Zion, that should be great. My only concern for New Orleans, Zion needs spacing. That's why I wanted him in Atlanta with Trae Young. Not a lot of spacing with that team right there, not a lot of shooting, but I love the combo for them.
Yeah, instantly they'll be a good defensive team. They have to play with some type of pace. Gentry is a good coach there. Look for them to utilize some of those picks and get a couple other veteran players because you can't add a bunch of other young players to a very, very young roster.
All right, finally, the other big story in the NBA, the decision Kawhi Leonard has in front of him. TMZ Sports spotted the newly crowned Toronto Raptors celebrating their title out in Las Vegas. And as soon as the euphoria settles, that Canadian passion will turn towards Kawhi and his free agent plans. According to Fred VanVleet, the team has done their part to recruit him.
He came here and did what he was supposed to do. So he brought this city a championship, and I think he's earned his freedom in his career to do what he wants to do, and we'll all respect and admire him. And if he's on another team, then we'll just have to kick his ass next year. But hopefully he'll be back.
Where do you think Kawhi Leonard ends up next year, Cece?
Well, first of all, what's happened to him since the trade last summer? When he reached out to Kyle Lowry and knew that Kyle Lowry was hurt because they had traded away his best friend, DeMar DeRozan, and he said, man, let's just try to go for this. Let's try to make this work. And Kawhi has been open-minded about he didn't have his eye on free agency. He didn't have his eye, even though he had demanded a trade and there were certain places that he wanted to go to. Once they traded him, and he was like, this is my team. These are my teammates.
He handled it perfectly.
I'm going to try to get healthy. So he had a team of doctors that collaborated with the Toronto Raptors and their doctors, and they came up with a plan that worked to perfection, and they were working on that until late game number 6, trying to think there was going to be a game number 7. So Kawhi hadn't had a whole bunch of time to think about free agency. But you would just have to assume, just natural thing, he's as normal as anyone else. His experience in Toronto, with that country and Canada, they have done everything. Man, the Raptors have made him feel at home. The teammates have been great. Even he gave us a little insight that there was some little problems behind the scenes. Him and Kyle Lowry, they were doing an interview with Rachel Nichols, and they talked about it, how even those things not getting out gave him a great deal of confidence, the type of men and the type of basketball players he was playing with. So I would say as of today, because they haven't had a whole bunch of time to think about this, Toronto Raptors, they are the slight leader. But he will sit down with 4 other teams. It's a 5-team race. He will sit down with both teams in New York. He's got a lot of respect for Steve Mills, Scott Perry, there who run the New York Knicks. He's very intrigued about what's going on in Brooklyn. We'll sit down with the Nets. And in Los Angeles, where he was born, Riverside, he will sit down with the Clippers, which people expected. But surprise, surprise, he also will sit down with the Lakers, who now have acquired Anthony Davis. So those are the 5 teams: Raptors, Nets, Knicks, Clippers, and the Lakers, who will get a chance to talk to Kawhi Leonard and his representatives.
So I think that the New York teams being included in this is the biggest news, the biggest surprise to people such as myself. We knew the Raptors would have a legitimate, at least fair shake at it. Now, for Toronto, I will mention this. The minutes after winning the championship, it came out that the Washington Wizards want to give Masai Ujiri $10 million a year and an ownership piece, which you can't get a better offer than that. It's the type of offer, by the way, we were encouraging the Lakers to make to Masai Ujiri a month ago or a month and a half ago when Magic Johnson stepped down. But if Masai leaves, I would imagine that will weaken Toronto's position substantially because he's been so good with Kawhi. He is the man in charge of that entire operation. We have to see what happens there. The Lakers being on the list, to me, should not surprise anyone. Now, I think the Lakers are unlikely for one logistical reason. They might not have the cap space to even offer him a true max deal. Depends on if they can get the Pelicans to delay this deal until July 30th. But the other one is because Kawhi did just win a championship as the only true all-star on a team and to then join up with a couple superstars. But the flip side is, because he won a championship like that, no one can accuse him of ring chasing.
And because he's won 2. I think that how he's developed with San Antonio, being part of their system, going on his own, it gives him a different type of credibility. Dwayne Wade had that type of credibility, just a different way.
Dwayne Wade won. Nobody thought Wade, nobody discounts Wade's rings with the 2 with LeBron because he had one before LeBron. If KD had won a title in OKC, they still might not have liked the move to Golden State, but no one would say you got to win one somewhere else before we believe you're a true champion or whatever that is. Kawhi is freedom. Kawhi's won a championship as a role player who then won Finals MVP, as the superstar on a team where he's the only superstar. But the other thing that this list tells me is even though Kawhi's quiet and even though he's soft-spoken, there is an element that I would imagine that recognizes the dollars available to a player of his caliber if he is in a market that is not San Antonio and that is not in Canada. Because what do the Knicks, Nets, Lakers, and Clippers have in common? They are in the biggest and second biggest media markets we have in this country, and Kawhi should be able to cash in on that. That's what you do when you're that level of player, but he has shown he can win in any circumstance. So what's a good fit for Kawhi Leonard? Everywhere is a good fit for Kawhi Leonard.
And also both of those environments, he's comfortable. He's comfortable because he's been in Toronto for a year. Also, he did his rehab here in New York. So he's got doctors, he's got business relationships here in New York City. That's why those two teams, and he mentioned that they have respect for how Steve Mills, even though our man Mannix says that the Knicks don't run things well, Kawhi's people have a lot of respect for him and Scott Perry.
A new era in U.S. men's soccer kicks off at the 2019 CONCACAF Gold Cup. Christian Pulisic, Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, and the national team looking to defend their title as they take on Guyana in the first match of group play tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. All right, back here with Sarah Kustok. A little good news, bad news for the Lakers now that the dust has settled on the Anthony Davis trade. Hold on. Hold on.
Cloudy in LA this morning?
Good news is this. Since the trade, the Lakers have now been linked to a number of top free agents, including Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, and Kemba Walker. Bad news, they currently don't have enough cap space to offer a max contract to the aforementioned free agents. Sarah, can the Lakers win a title without adding another superstar? Do they need Kawhi, Kyrie, or Kemba if they want to win?
I don't see this as bad news at all. I think they can win without another superstar. And I actually, we know the type of players Kyrie, Kawhi, Kemba could be, how they can add to the team and add to how LeBron and Anthony Davis play. I like the idea of them splitting up some of the money that they have left and getting some very quality players that can fill the gaps of what they need. They need some shooters. They need more playmakers and ball handlers. There's only 5 guys, I think, currently under contract with the Lakers right now.
They need guards, too.
They definitely
need guards.
They need guards. But there are a lot of players out there and on the free agent market heading into the next week or two that aren't some of these top-tier players. I think we've been talking about free agency ad nauseum because of the elite type of players that are out there. However, I think you go next to that is some of those 2-3 tiers down, and you're going to get some excellent players that can fit in well with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And absolutely, they have. I'm not going to put them as front runners yet for title contention. You need to see how they fill out the roster. But I think they certainly can compete for a title without getting one of those superstars.
And I think that, first of all, in analyzing this, we need to realize that the NBA changed. When Kevin Durant got hurt, it changed. Regardless of whatever his decision was going to be, it changed because it took one of the greatest players and a guy that Golden State went to get after the 73-win season to be able to counter LeBron James. Now LeBron James gets a superstar in AD. Do you really need a third guy? Right now in the NBA, you're not. This is what the NBA used to be before LeBron went to Miami. I'm not blaming it on him, but since he went to Miami, this is what we have seen where we have had at least 3 superstars on a team. I like the fact that there can be other avenues. And you saw Kawhi Leonard win a championship. If you think 2 guys can't win a championship, I don't think you're really watching the NBA and what the NBA is going to be like for the next couple years. I believe those other players. Now, if I can do anything, if I can get Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis at 26, Kawhi Leonard's how old, Nick?
27.
27. If I can get them in LeBron James' 37th year, I don't care who out there on the court. I'll get them some slam dunk, some guys we do videos with. There's a bunch of guys that will walk to L.A. to be able to play with that type of team. And with Kawhi and AD being unbelievable defenders, it would lengthen LeBron's career. But I think the more reality is getting some pieces to split up that money, Nick.
Well, so here's the deal. If Kawhi Leonard says, I want to play for you, and you can make the money work, you do it. The money's complicated. The Lakers might have $24 million. They also might have $28 million, and they might actually have $32 million. That is going to be determined by, does Anthony Davis turn down his trade bonus, and do the Pelicans allow them, or do the Pelicans allow them to delay the trade? But so we don't know that yet. We won't know that for a few days. I've been trying to tack down whether or not Anthony Davis is even open to turning down $4 million, and I haven't been able to get an answer on that. So let's just presume, for the sake of conversation, they could have a max contract available. If you can get Kawhi, you sign Kawhi, and you deal with a top-heavy team, because then you have 3 of the 7 guys that actually really matter in this league. If you can sign Kyrie, you sign Kyrie. Kemba, I still would do it. Once you get to the Jimmy Butler level, if you are going to use the dollars smartly. Now, this is as arrogant as anything I've ever said on television. If I were the one picking the players, I would go pick the right players. Rob Pelinka, we'll see. But if you can go get Darren Collison, who went to UCLA, is from Riverside, 40% three-point shooter, just made $10 million last year, probably going to be around the same market, around $10 million. And by the way,
got some good playoff experience.
Right.
Very good defender.
All those things. If you can go, say, to Patrick Beverly, you don't even have to move, bro. And come. He shot 38% from 3 last year. He is a tenacious defender.
Just what he did against Golden State, he can play for me.
Absolutely. Yep. And what about Curry? Seth Curry. What about Terrence Ross? Terrence Ross made $10 million. Seth Curry ain't made no money yet. So if you want to go say, hey, we're going to use 24, 26, 28 million, whatever you got, give Darren Collison 9, give Patrick Beverly 8, give Terrence Ross 9. Okay, well, now that's really interesting.
J.J. Redick, he come down just a little bit, maybe 10 to 12 million.
Something like that. And so now there's 2 names people are going to bring up. One is Boogie Cousins. Would he sign a 1+1? What would Boogie be? We saw him and Anthony Davis play together. That, to me, is interesting. Bojan Bogdanovic, everyone's going to talk about it. You mentioned it off the air when you and I were talking.
Yep.
He might be too expensive. He might be $20 million.
I think he will be. I think he'd be a tremendous fit. I think he's going to be too expensive.
And then you go to that third level, which is you call up Rudy Gay and you say, listen, man, you've made $134 million in your career. You know what you haven't done? Play in the NBA Finals. You know what you haven't done? Won a championship. Would you like to come?
Yep, good teammate, good
You're going to have money left over when you're gone no matter what. You call up Jamal Crawford, who's going to be 40 years old, and just say, hey, man, you've never been chasing rings, no problem, but do you want to come and
you want to travel with the Beatles?
Right. You want to be on our team and we can give you 6 minutes a night where you play more than 6 minutes a night, but 6 minutes a night where we run the offense through you. And that is where LeBron is in a position different here than Cleveland. And that's what Richard Jefferson has told us. That's what anyone's told us. Getting guys to come to Miami, to come play there, try to win a ring, live in Miami, that's one thing. Getting guys in Cleveland, that's another. Getting guys in L.A., much more similar to Miami. So if you can get Kawhi, Kyrie, you do it. Kemba, I think you still do it. But if you can't get any of those guys, then I try to go after some of those names. Danny Green, someone you've mentioned, and try to get 2 or 3 players for the cost of one superstar.
And that's where I think it's being in L.A. and the market, and for as much as we've talked about the brand and the franchise of the Lakers, that to me is the most important point. This is a place you could recruit guys. We've seen Golden State do this throughout the course of the last few years. David West, that they said guys that are towards the end of their career that can still be impactful and productive. And so it's that different level. I think in ways piecing together those type of players rather than just if you can't get a Kawhi, to me it's a Kawhi, a Kemba, or Kyrie, which I think that's a long shot. You absolutely have a lot of players that can make a difference. And
as we watch them spend this money, I believe it's going to be a great opportunity for Rob Pelinka. Let's give him credit. He got this deal done, something they couldn't get done. Dale Demps seemed to not want to do a deal. I thought it was better during the regular season than the deal that they settled for with Anthony Davis. But can he fill in these pieces, all right, to build, stabilize this franchise? Because they have championship. All they need is some shooters, some other spot-up players to play some defense, and now having LeBron James, I believe, is going to be a tremendous asset because guys will take less to come play with them now that they have Anthony Davis.
Back here at Sarah Kustok, more on Anthony Davis now. He's leaving New Orleans, heading to L.A., joining forces with LeBron James and the Lakers. LeBron was oh so happy upon hearing the news, posting this photo to the gram. This, Sarah, is photoshopped. It's a Photoshop picture. It's got the caption, AD on the way. Let's get it, bro.
I'm so glad you, man, because that would have gotten me.
It confuses me. I thought I would let the audience know. Hashtag Lake Show.
LeBron also letting Anthony Davis know he's not giving up 23. Like, say, hey, Anthony Davis, I know you wore 23.
That may be
But let me show you.
But
That may
guess
be
what?
more of the motivation behind the
Guess what? You're going to have to find a new number, bro. And 22's taken. The Lakers retired it for Elgin, so I don't know what AD is going to wear.
Sarah, does this trade finally justify LeBron's move to the Lakers?
See, I don't think anything was needed to justify LeBron's move to the Lakers. I think he wanted to go there. He knew that was a place that he wanted to be. I think often because of time, we forget the situation that he was in Cleveland. I know he had a lot of other options, and last season we could speculate if he would have went to Philly or would have went to X, Y, and Z. However, his current situation wasn't one, for example, like we talk about with Kawhi, where he just won a title with the current team he's at. So I don't think he needed anything to justify it. However, for the Lakers, this is a move that they had to make. They had to get another star to put along LeBron James for now. The winning time for them is right now. The window is not very long and not much longer with where LeBron James is at in his career. So it was not a situation where you could wait another couple seasons to see how things panned out. So for LeBron, I don't think this was a needed justification, but I do think for him, he deserves to have someone like an Anthony Davis playing alongside of him.
I think LeBron, because he gets criticized so much, that we did need this, because LeBron is involved in a lot of different things. And he's involved in more things than 99% of all the other athletes that we know. So one of the questions in year 16, year 17, year 18, is LeBron focused on the thing? And the thing is, he's always said, keep the main thing, and that's basketball. Regardless of what they do in Hollywood, LeBron James will always be known, just like Michael Jordan, regardless of what they do, basketball. Even though Michael Jordan owns an NBA team, he is known as a basketball player. And you would have to question, is his focus in the right place, going to Los Angeles compared to some of these other places without any superstar? When LeBron got there, they have been one of the worst teams in the NBA with the Knicks the last 4 years. This year, it didn't help them when we had all the injuries. So I believe it's a legitimate question. But if you know LeBron and you're fair to LeBron, you know LeBron is chasing history. LeBron does not think he's the best basketball player in the world. And LeBron knows those rings do mean something. He would like to get 4, 5 championships. He doesn't want to settle with 3. Steph's got how many, Nick?
Steph's got 3.
Okay, how many KD got?
KD's got 2.
Oh, okay. Now, I do know he don't want to be paired with them when his career is over with. So is it justified? I believe that without another superstar, and if they end up trading for a bottom of the barrel and LeBron goes into year number 2 and they just make the playoffs, they're the 6th seed, 5th seed, yes. Because with LeBron, it should be about championships. I believe that it's justified. And I know LeBron. It's justified because now his championship aspirations, they're real compared to on paper.
And for the first time in a number of years, the championship hopes of the team that he's on do not rest solely on the shoulders of
That's a good
what
point.
unprecedented level of greatness can I get to individually. For the first time, honestly, since 2012, 2013, that Heat team that won its second title was a great team. It was well-rounded, was great defensively, won 27 games in a row. What are you smiling about, Steve?
But even though they did have Bosh and Dwayne Wade, LeBron had to play at a uber level.
He had to play great.
Dwayne Wade's knees were not what they...
Absolutely, but there were games in that run where LeBron didn't have to be a triple plus for them to win. Once he got to Cleveland, even though that Cleveland team the first few years was quite good offensively, they were drawing dead against Golden State unless LeBron, 41, 16, and 7 to win a Game 5. 41, 7, and 11, I think, to win a Game 6. The triple-double in a Game 7. He had to be A+ every night once they got to the championship stage. Maybe in the conference finals, he didn't have to be until that last year when the team had fallen apart after Kyrie had demanded the trade. Now that is not the case. Now you are going to be able to pace yourself to a degree. You've got, the last healthy year for Anthony Davis, or I shouldn't say healthy, the last year prior to this year before he demanded the trade, the MVP rankings went like this: James Harden, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. If we were doing some type of trade value, trade rankings, how many guys in the league would you trade for Anthony Davis, or would you trade Anthony Davis for 1 for 1? Was it 2 guys? 3 guys? It's Giannis? And who else? Well, KD now is turning. Steph, he's 31. He's 30. It's a short list now.
Yeah.
Right. And now you have a
Giannis, Joel Embiid.
Yeah, sure. There you go. And I think those are two names. And maybe if I thought longer about it, we could have made Luka if you want to bet on the upside. I don't know. But it's a very short list. The reason that I don't think the move needed justification is, you know who wasn't surprised that the Lakers have another superstar? LeBron James. Because if they hadn't traded for Anthony Davis, they would have had max salary cap space. And I think he believes someone was going to come say, I want to come play with you. And LeBron plus a superstar, what do we know that equals? Trip to the finals? Real shot at a championship? That's what it's equaled thus far in his career.
I also think, though, important with that being said, think about how much we had the narrative, which was a real one, of Golden State going to 5 straight finals and the mental, physical, emotional toll that takes on a team. LeBron James went to 8 straight finals. So for him, even though I'm sure he didn't want to be sitting watching from his couch, the playoffs and the postseason this past year, I cannot wait to see the LeBron James we're going to get coming into the season. The fact that he has had all this time to finally have a little bit of a rest and get himself ready coming into this season.
Not that LeBron needed a pitch to come to L.A., but the pitch was from Magic. It's a two-pronged plan. It's we bring you in and we're bringing someone else in. And I know that this is a completely different, mangled, Lakers brass at this point from what we saw, but this was always the plan. It's what LeBron wanted to buy into. He knew he was coming, but he knew that there was going to be cap space and there was going to be the space in the room and the ability to bring someone else in there.
It's also one of the reasons why last year, even if LeBron doesn't get hurt, and even if the Anthony Davis trade rumors never come up, it's why last year was never a championship year, because they were holding their chips at bay. They had an opportunity during last season.
It was be patient, develop the younger players,
and wait for this moment.
Yes.
It was why during the season I said, do not trade for Bradley Beal. And I really like Bradley Beal, but it would be rushing something you don't need to rush. It was never about the first season. Now, we didn't think LeBron was going to tear his groin. We didn't think the young players were going to end up feeling like they were all rentals. We didn't know Magic was not going to be here anymore. We didn't know any of that. But what we did know was it was about 2019, 2020. And now they have the best player in the world and arguably the best big man in the world. They have the best player in the world and arguably one of the 2 best assets in the league. Yeah, to me, that justifies the move entirely if it needed it.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.